call the meeting to order at 6:15. Okay, tonight we have a special sites and facilities meeting. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I know it was off from our regular schedule, but we've got couple of important things on the agenda tonight that we've got to move forward. So with that, I'm going to turn the reins over to Dr. Seelig, who's going to give us the rundown of what's going on.
Thank you, Louisa. And again, thank you to all the board members who joined us tonight. I know a flash emergency meeting on a Tuesday night in between holidays is not how everybody prefers to spend their time, but we'll be as quick as possible. And I think we'll move along with some pretty good information here. So there's two big items on the agenda. The first is the capital budget process, and the second is going to be the HVAC grant. The HVAC grant has two action items, which we'll need to send up to full board, and the minutes from these will have to be submitted with our application when we send it by December 1st. So we'll start at the top with the capital budget process, and for that, I'll throw it to John.
And Rich too. So the city of Danbury each year has a capital budgeting program where they solicit capital spending requests from different departments. It's organized by Sharon Calitro in the planning department, and it becomes part of the mayor's budget. And generally what happens is projects are looked at and put into one of the next 5 years to be funded. And then depending on what's in there, the city will fund the projects in two ways. Last year, they took about $3 million of projects and just included them in the city budget, just like any other line item. There were a couple things for us in there. And then some of the bigger ones, they may pull out and finance those by issuing general obligation bonds. The most recent example of that was the Cardis purchase. But right now, they're collecting those projects. Antonio collects them for the schools and includes them in a section of the capital budget called public buildings. There are other projects for other departments in there as well. The only difference might be those other departments also put in projects themselves, but ours are there. So what we'd like to do is express to Antonio what we think are the most pressing priorities we have right now, and then ask him to include those in the capital budget that he submits on our behalf. So Rich has the list, many of the things you'll be familiar with. And well, Rich, I'll let you take it from there and can get back to that.
Sure, I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see how this goes. There we go. Can everybody see the list of capital projects? Okay, yes. So we try to prioritize them as best as we could, and some of these items are consistent with what's already in the public buildings budget. You know, top one, replace windows at Great Plains School. Great Plains School is one of 2 or 3 schools where they have old single pane windows. They're probably original to the building. A lot of them are hard to secure at night. You know, $1.5 million. Installation of soffits on the open overhangs at Millridge Primary. That's also with the asterisk, that's in public buildings, but they usually put various schools. So Millridge Primary, you've probably heard the open soffits, there's a lot of piping that birds and bats hang out on. We get a lot of bird droppings. It's very unsanitary for the kids to be, you know, walking around there. And we've power washed it before, and within a few weeks, you know, the bird droppings are back on the ground. So that soffit would take care of that problem, and it would give the school a nice clean look as well. replace Danbury High School stadium lights with LED lighting. Last week, Brian Harity, my foreman, and myself met with Musco Lighting to get an approximate budget price to replace all the stadium lights with LED lighting. Every year we spend a significant amount of money just on bulbs and ballasts, and the lights are getting to that age where we should look into replacing them. 50,000 for mechanical study to install air conditioning in schools. That fits hand in hand with a few things. I believe we still have money in the ESSER fund for indoor air quality. In addition, the state has come out with this initial grant for air quality projects or HVAC projects, and they've sort of alluded to a second round of grants coming out in the next year or so. So this would prepare us for future grants to be able to take advantage of that. Paving and sidewalk, school bus parking at Danbury High School. John, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, with the increased enrollment, we've had to add more buses there, and we don't have a place to park them all safely anymore. We had a pedestrian engineering company come out. Right now they're double stacked in the afternoon and in the mornings in the front, and that's not a safe way to park school buses. It's very much frowned upon, and we'd like to park some of the buses over by the gym, but where they were at one time, but we need to reconfigure that parking lot to make it a little easier for buses to turn, and that's what this money would do. We think it's a safety, for reasons of safety, we're being advised we need to do something. Rich?
Thank you, John. Thank you. Create classroom and media center at Moore Street. Right now they have like a portable partition up to be able to segregate students in a learning environment, but it's not really that great of a setup. So we want to make a more permanent classroom. South Street ASL office space and modulars. Right now we have two larger areas that I've met with Carmen, the principal, and we're looking at making the classrooms a little bit smaller and creating office space in there. Replace exterior doors at Beaverbrook, 100,000. Anybody that's been to Beaverbrook, you can see there's a fair amount of rotting going on in the door frames as well as the doors. So it needs to get taken care of sooner than later. Install air conditioning at ACE. As we do more and more education in the summer, it's difficult to do with the temperature of those rooms. So I think it's something we should start looking at. Bathroom remodels, fixture replacement at Haystown. Looking at taking some of the older tired bathrooms and giving them a facelift. Replace flooring at King Street Primary. Just to put a new, more modern LVT in, which would be a no wax floor. It gives us more time in the summer for painting and other detail cleaning items instead of stripping and waxing. Construct security vestibule at Great Plains School, 70,000. I've actually met with the contractor, and we're working on getting a tighter price on that. Convert building control systems. So right now we're in the middle of converting, I should say, Public Buildings has converted 3 or 4 schools to a better, easier to use system. And this would help us take care of probably at least Danbury High School and a few other schools. replace exterior doors at Rogers Park. These are specifically the double doors that go to the kitchen area. The doors and the door frame, they're both pretty beat up and could use replacement. Repair front entrance supports at Morris Street. That whole entrance, we're going to need to look at getting repairs done to that. It's getting to the point that it's definitely going to need repairs soon. We'll replace loading doors and frame at Rogers Park. That I sort of alluded to that in the last one. Repair Ellsworth roof leaks. Since before we put in solar panels, there's been a significant amount of roof leaks at Ellsworth. You know, anytime we get a heavy rain, and I think we really need to look at a more permanent fix. I know the city has come there and done several interim repairs, but I think we need to take a more thorough look at that. Replacement of clay traps district-wide. What we're talking about there is with the art rooms. A lot of those clay traps are 50, 60 years old, and they get clogged, and you know, we lose the use of that sink. So we've done some replacement of clay traps at Danbury High School, but I would say we need to look at Broadview Middle School and Rogers Park. And there's also some rooms at Broadview Middle School that used to be art rooms that have those clay traps. And so we could just pull those out and do some replumbing so the sinks are a little bit more usable. Line striping of parking lots at all schools. This is probably something we should do a few schools a year just to keep ahead of the game. Replacement of playground equipment at Millridge Primary. That's been an issue. There's been some vandalism there in the past year. Replacement of exterior fences. You know, we have a lot of fencing that's seen better days. And then I just put in there, install air conditioning at 5 elementary schools. You know, we'll know better what schools to target after we get this study done for the installation of air conditioning.
Rich, what's your total capital request here then?
I
think it's
we don't have a
4
total here,
million.
but I believe it's about $3 million.
Yep. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll add it up.
I know that the city's budget for schools, for public buildings is about 300 million, but they do have the career academy in there, and that they have a early education center in there. So a lot of it is larger school additions.
Rich, I get 4.1 million.
Oh, okay.
4,140,000.
Yeah. Does anybody have feedback as far as the priorities?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
On the here you have for let me see, pretty sure so no, it's not Morris Street. I have it here on my notes. Serious. Millridge. I'm sorry, my apologies. As a Millridge and budget, I know that you have it as a 65,000 for replacement of playground equipment, but we received an email a
Yes.
few weeks ago regarding the bathroom. Would that do you think this is something that could be done, or is it added somewhere in the budget?
For replacement of playground equipment?
Yeah, conditions that they are facing right now in their bathrooms.
So Julie, that's a great question. What this budget is trying to do, and John, please jump in and help me if I'm not explaining this properly. This is sort of above and beyond the sort of day-to-day repairs piece. This is This is sort of, what is it, 5 years, John, the capital
Yeah.
budget? So these are sort of the
Okay.
big projects we want to tackle. Those little projects are still fitting into our sort of our current maintenance budget and the, the current back and forth we have with the city in working through some of those. So this is sort of like the bigger plans and
Okay, perfect.
yeah, and it
Understood.
raises a really good point too, because I just want to clarify, this is sort of above and beyond our traditional budget, right, John? This isn't
Yeah, sure.
things we're going to be talking about. You're going to see a whole new list. Everybody's going to see a whole new list when we come to budget season, and we're talking about, how much money we're going to spend on maintenance. This is going to be money that sits outside of that,
Mhm.
that the city's going to go after, and we're just telling them these are our priority projects. So sorry, we should have clarified that a little bit on the front end.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Yep.
So
But
I
I know
have,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. I kind of have a follow-up to your question, Julie. So like the Haystown bathroom remodel is on this as a priority. So how is that a priority versus like emails we've been getting about other schools, like concerns, Mill Ridge, and I know other board members have been getting, concerns about Great Plain bathrooms and stuff like that. So how come the Haystown one is a priority on this and like Mill Ridge problems? And I understand that those are still in the budget, but if they're not being fixed, how come they're not a priority on this list versus like restriping the parking lot, which I understand is also something that needs to be done, but do you know what I mean?
Mike, and I understand exactly and I know our last meeting, we talked a lot about, specific repairs and the process of who repairs what, whether it falls under us in the city. And I know we had an extensive conversation about that. So can you maybe give us an understanding as to where something falls under repairs, where something falls under a capital improvement, and how we're defining the two, and how this is moving forward with the city on, based on the discussions we had, follow up to the discussions we had last meeting.
Sure.
I think that's where all our board members, our brains are on, where we're being, asked about all of these imminent problems that we have. So, how is all of that falling into this, and how are we separating that?
Mike, could I take a try at just the definition?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so capital items generally might have a unit cost of, or a cost above $20,000 and have a useful life of at least 5 years or more. There's the bricks and mortar kind of things that last a long time, whereas repairs are just exactly that, ongoing maintenance and repairs that you have to do day in and day out. The other thing, though, we've heard loud and clear too about the bathrooms, and we've started, I guess, Rich, about a month ago with a blitz to take care of all of the bathroom issues that have come up. We just don't want to wait for the city, given the seriousness of the condition. And so we're underway. Rich, you could probably tell more. I know we've done some of that work, and there's more planned this month.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I met with the contractor this morning to look at AIS Magnet School and Westside Middle School, and the bathrooms that I'm targeting are outstanding work orders that have been 4, 5, 6 months or older. In the situation of Westside, those bathrooms have been like that for over a year. So I'm working with the contractor to get some of these older issues taken care of. And as an example of deciding whether this should go on capital as opposed to just repair AIS Magnet School, it's about 12 years old. So I don't think we need to renovate the bathrooms, but there's definitely some sinks there that are in need of repair.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Rich and I have been talking about this a lot, John as well, over the last few weeks. I mean, more than that even. And, in a lot of the repairs, when the plumbing, I mean, it's not going to be over $20,000. It's significant, but it's digging into a wall and ripping out a few pipes and then putting some tile back into place. It's time consuming and it is expensive, but to Rich's point, it doesn't require an entire bathroom renovation. So those things wouldn't make the list. The bathroom at Haystown, for example. I don't know the exact one we're talking about, Rich, but I think this is a pretty dated bathroom with and it just has an old look, feel, and smell to it, and it just needs it needs a refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Rich. Al,
Hi, Al.
I dropped out for a minute and I am back on something. Looking into my phone, the one, I think the bathroom that Julie, I believe, was referring to, the complaint came in October 21st for Mill Ridge Primary School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah.
Yes, I checked in with the head custodian today, and I'll probably take it right out there tomorrow, but he seemed to think that that was repaired, but I don't want to say that until I see with my own eyes, so I'll go out there the next day or
Right.
two.
Well, the email is, like I said, is dated October 21st. So, I don't know what's happened. You scared me. When you
Yeah,
6 months behind on repairing bathrooms.
I think that's actually the email from the day Rich and I met with some of the city folks over at the mayor's office. And they had actually, after that meeting, I was on the phone with Miss Tarsi, the principal at Mill Ridge, and she said that the bathroom had been repaired. So I think that one is taken care of, unless something else has broken since.
No, I just, Julie and I received the same email and I did some research and it dropped off my phone and
Yeah.
it was the 21st of October that the complaint came in. But okay, no, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that one should be all taken care of. So.
Great.
I would consider this a living document also. So in other words, as we go through the year, we're going to reevaluate these priorities, and conditions change in various buildings, which might, prompt us to change something, put it higher up on their priority list, depending on how much the conditions worsen. So
Right now, Ellsworth Avenue School isn't that old, is it?
Nope.
no, it's about 12, 14
And the roof is leaking.
years old.
Do we have any recourse with the contractor, original contractor? Or is it just gone beyond what they would warranty?
Yeah,
I don't know the
I
answer to
think it's
that.
gone beyond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps with the company that did the solar panels, if that is in fact the cause of it, there's suspicion that when they bolted them in, that the holes weren't sealed properly, and that's what's causing it. But we need someone to go up there and verify that. So that's a TBD. It could be.
Well,
Quick
thank you.
question, Michael. Would this, I mean, I don't know if you or somebody else can answer. Would this budget, this 5 year project budget, will cover some of the findings that we the audits on the audit that we have?
Yeah, it's funny as we were going down the list. That's exactly what I was thinking, Julie. So there's a few things in here that would overlap. The parking lot striping, oddly, is one, because one of the recommendations was that we have assigned parking, and this way we always know which teachers are in the building. That was a sort of general recommendation. So while we do our striping, we could do things like number the spots and then assign spots. So there are a few overlaps in that. But if you, when we looked back through the audit, a lot of that stuff was sort of smaller repair maintenance stuff. So yeah, there's probably a few things in here. And to Rich's point, this is a living document. There are a few things which I think we could talk about offline, which we might still want to tuck in here under a sort of security out of security concerns. Thank you. That's a great suggestion, Julie.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members or other board members?
Right, just to clear up in my own little mind,
Go ahead.
that this is, these capital improvements are from the city budget, no way affect our budget because the buildings belong to the city. And so this is a wish list of what they want. We want, asking the city to fund for 2023, correct? And I mean, yeah, leaking roofs to bathrooms, it all's got to be done.
Right. Well, we'd like them to put them in the capital plan. I think if they decide something is better done in year two, for example, they may say, we have something in there where we're gonna study first the need for air conditioning. Maybe they'll say, okay, you can have the money for that this year, but let's wait for the study and do the air conditioning, the last project there in year two, something like that. They may take some of these and put them,
Yes.
Right. we'd
We
love to have
think-
them all this year.
Right, well,
Yeah.
it is our opinion that yes, but will they?
Yeah.
So they will pick and choose, or must pick and choose our priorities?
Well, they will decide what year it should go in. Well, first they'll decide, should it go in, and then what year, and then they'll decide whether they want to finance, whether it's a project that should be financed in the mayor's operating budget or something for the bonding that goes on every several years. Yeah, and we really, and we don't care how they raise the money, as long as they do the work, so.
Yeah, and now there's certain projects that they're gonna have on their priority list that, we won't really even think about, things that, venting the boilers, in the high school out into the field and running those tubes and pipes out there. I mean, those are things that aren't really on our radar because we don't really deal with the boilers, right? So to them, that's an important job because that's critical maintenance. So things like that are going to get tucked in and they're going to say, sorry, guys, we got to do this. It's key maintenance. So, maybe we're not going to get,
Line strictly.
exactly. Right. So there is going to be a negotiation in the end. This is just what we're saying out of the pot of money that's going to go into capital. These are our preferences.
Okay,
There's one or two projects that would typically be done by the Board of Ed. If, for instance, I'm looking at the replaced flooring at King Street Primary, typically we do the flooring replacement, but it was above that $25,000 threshold. So I put it in the capital.
Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, I have one last quick thing. I mean, I remember that you mentioned, Rich, that the roof leaking that you have on Ellsworth, you're not sure if it's due to solar panels. So, and then the warranty is pretty much outdated. But is there any way that we can find out moving forward and looking forward into the future, find out if it's due to solar panels, because I understand that it's the main interest of some of the board members to install more solar panels on different schools. And if it's caused by solar panels, how can we prevent them for the future?
Well, typically with the installation of solar panels, we like to time it along with the roof replacement. So in other words, you don't want to put a solar array on a 20-year-old roof because 10 years from now, you're going to be replacing that roof. So, I think the city has looked at that and we will continue to look at that. As we replace roofs, is this, well, whatever school it is this a good fit for a solar panel? So we will definitely be looking at that.
Thank you. No more questions on my end.
Okay, I think that's it for us.
All right. So item number 2, I've got 15 minutes till bath time, so I'm going to move fast on this one. This is the HVAC grant. So as you all know, this is a grant that came out, I believe it was about early to mid-October. It was announced by the Office of State Construction and Grants Review. And it was a very, very short timeline to where a lot of school business officials were kind of talking and emailing about it, kind of scratching their heads saying, we're not really sure how to go about this. This is just too fast. John, myself, Rich, all got together and we're just thinking, what can we do with this? Originally, we wanted to put air conditioning in some of the schools. We called up Fryer, our architect, and said, Glenn, can we put AC in a few elementary schools? And, can we get some plans to do that and put it in the grant? And he said, there's simply not enough time. You need to draw up blueprints and plans and specifications, and it's simply not possible to do a project of that scale in such a short timeline. So we were thinking about things we could do that were essentially plug and play. And it turns out that we came up with a very good project idea around air purification. We learned about some air purification units that were ceiling mounted, hardwired into the electrical system, and had up to 10 air changes per hour. Now, the air changes per hour is sort of the standard for how effective a air purifier is. And those little standalone units that you would put in, in the corner of an office or something, they could be one or fewer, depending on how powerful they're blowing and how big the room is. So at about the average size of a classroom, we found a unit that goes up in the ceiling. Like I said, it's hardwired. It has a sensor on it, so it shuts off when no one's in the room. And that allows the filter to last up to 3 years, which is another huge part of this because the maintenance on these can get really expensive. And we found some units that were actually rather cost effective to the tune that we would be able to do this at a reasonable price throughout an entire school. The way the application works for the HVAC grant is that you have to apply for one application per school. So we really wanted to focus on one school and do this well. And we decided to do this at Danbury High School for about 200 units. There's just about 200 classrooms. These are units that are really designed for a classroom space. They're too powerful. You really wouldn't need one in an office space, really, or a sort of workroom. And they're really not appropriate for hallways or cafeterias or gyms. Those are going to be different technology. These are really about getting quality air in the classrooms where kids and teachers are spending the majority of their day. And we decided to put this project through and work with Fryer Architecture on getting specifications in place that would get us a really solid application for this HVAC grant. So you all would have received the education specification last night. It's just a 4-page overview of the project and our approach, the way we're thinking about it, our rationale. The need is obvious. I heard someone say we're talking about clean air today, the way we talked about tap versus bottled water about a decade ago. The idea that we're not going to have purified air in crowded spaces today is going to seem just as strange as not having purified water in a home or in a workplace as that was about a decade ago. So the underlying logic here, and of course with COVID and ongoing concerns about air quality, this really seemed like the right gauge for this project. So a little bit about the sort of units we're looking for. So the way this will work is we'll put the application in, and if we get approved, then the project will go out to bid. But the specifications we're looking for in these units are essentially units that will provide about 10 air changes per hour. And more importantly, we want them to operate at a low enough volume so they wouldn't interrupt instruction. Some of the units we found operated at about 55 decibels. So we're saying below 60 decibels. That's about the sound your dishwasher makes, if it's a dishwasher that's made in the last 10 years. We want to make sure it has HEPA filters, which with the highest quality filtration, and they capture over 99.9% of particles with a minimum size of 0.1 microns. That is the sort of gold standard for these units. And more importantly, we wanted to make sure that they were low maintenance. They weren't going to require constant changes of filters and that there would be also a good warranty on these things too. So whether it's solar panels or roofs or whatever it is, if something goes wrong, we can pick up a phone and have the company come out and service them.
Is this air cooling as well as air purification?
It is not cooling, Mr. Russo. It is just air purification, but it moves a lot of air, and it'll probably have a similar effect to a good fan.
Okay. And you say we received this last night?
This would have come in, yes, from Cara Pompano last night, attached to the agenda. I think it's in the calendar invite. It's attached as a PDF behind the agenda.
All right, that's probably why I lost it. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
No problem. So that's kind of the big picture here. We want to do the full high school. We based on some estimates and quotes that we got from Fryer Architecture and just sort of looking at the cost of these units in the field. This full project cost is about $1,766,000. The HVAC grant is a reimbursement grant. Our reimbursement rate is about 72%, which means what we would be responsible for upfront is about $495,000. I will let John talk a little bit about our plan for how we're going to fund that 495. John?
Yeah. As you know, there are some reserves on the city balance sheet that are dedicated to for school purposes. Right now, the reserve amount is something upwards of 700,000, 7 million, I'm sorry. So we think drawing down 500,000 would still leave plenty for any unexpected needs or insurance things that come along. That would be our first choice. That can be done on the signature of the city director of finance. Does not go to the city council, drawdown of reserves. And if that doesn't seem to work out, our next choice would be we have a number of unfilled positions still in the school bus 30th for that. So those are the plans right now.
Thanks, John. So a combination of savings from staff we weren't able to fill, and then whatever is remaining on that balance of $495,000, and that's what we would ideally go and request from the city to access from our reserves. Any questions?
Yeah, aren't we gonna need that 495,000 next September if we can fill those positions? Or we'll just ask the city for that money?
Well, for salaries and wages and positions, we put aside 12-month appropriations or budget lines. So come June 30th, if we haven't spent it, it reverts back to the city surplus. Now, just right now, we're building our budget for next year, and we've put those vacant positions in because we need to fill them. But we wouldn't be able to use, I'll call it prior year money for salary type things.
Okay. And I know you're not supposed to say this when it comes to construction projects, but we built in a healthy cushion just to anticipate possible increases in price, just all the challenges that are coming with construction right now. So it's very likely this project could come in lower, and we're very hopeful about that.
Anybody else have any questions?
I do, Louisa. The city, thank you. The city is okay with us doing something like that. They would okay with us taking money that was put aside for paras and using it to fund a grant?
Well, I think we would at a minimum consult with them. This grant, by the way, is being treated like a full-blown construction grant, even as small as it is. And what that means is there are 2 or 3 things you might remember from the last board meeting. We asked the city council for permission to do. One is we asked them for permission to apply for the grant. And that will be on the city council agenda next week, one of 3 resolutions. The second one is there has to be a building committee to oversee the project. So the city council appoints the building committee, happens to be a standing committee here in Danbury. And the third thing the council will be giving us permission for is to draw up the specifications, the drawings that Mike talked about. So we'll be armed with 3 previous resolutions giving us permission to pursue it. Doesn't negate the need to consult them. So that's where we're at.
And I will say there's one little feature that was built into this grant because of the way these units are installed. They're not actually attached to the HVAC system, which by virtue of the facilities agreement that we have in place, they would actually fall under our control for maintenance and upkeep. And that's actually intentional because we want to be able to manage the warranties and make sure that we get the filters replaced and we go in and do whatever we need to do to make sure they're working properly. And we did that again, so we could maintain control of it. We also didn't want to bombard Sean and Antonio with another job to do of maintaining these. So we thought this was a great way to take care of some air quality problems without adding more to their workload too.
But
So
not, by not doing that, now we have to hire maintenance people under our budget rather than use the city budget, which puts
Yeah.
a real burden on us, correct?
For the first 3 years, the maintenance and upkeep would be covered under well, part of the plan is to have a warranty in place with the company, and they would maintain these for the first 3 years, and then at that point we would figure out how we're going to go forward with them. It could mean you know, if it's just as simple as replacing filters, you know, then that's something we can just work into the preventative maintenance schedule for the custodians at the school. If it's more complicated than that, then potentially we would have to bring on more staff. Yeah.
And the high school wouldn't need like electrical or any further updates to handle this new system?
According to Glenn, there would be a little bit of work that would involve some fireproofing. And Rich, you can help me out a little bit on the technical part here. Just some fireproofing, and I don't believe there's anything extra that we would need to do for the electrical system.
They don't have a huge electrical load. And, you know, one of the companies we were looking at, it includes the installation of them, including the electrical. So we should be good with that.
Mike, when you mentioned Glenn, I think everybody knows Glenn Yackel with Fryer Architects. They've done several projects for us before at the high school. They're also the architect the city's using for the Cardis project. So they're very good.
Now, did you need an approval or a vote from us tonight on any of these issues?
Yes, so there's actually 2 approvals that we're requiring. The first would just be an approval of the education specs, that document that was emailed for this grant. So that would be the first one. And then the second one would be an approval to request the access of the reserve funds of the city when that time comes. So those 2 approvals would need to be part of our application before we send it in.
So we're going to request the reserve funds first before we go into option
Oh,
B,
yes.
which would be that. So that's, we're going to exhaust all of that first.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions before we move on to our action items from the board? Nobody? Okay. All right, so then why don't we move on then? Let's I have a motion to approve the education specifications for the HVAC grant proposed at DHS. Or now,
So moved.
do I hear a second? Al?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Lauren, seconded by Al. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, perfect. The second item action for tonight, do I hear a motion to approve the request to the city of Danbury to access reserve funds to finance Danbury Board of Education share of the Connecticut HVAC grant?
So moved.
Oh, it has to be Al or Lauren. Sorry, Julie.
So moved.
Moved by Lauren. Al, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think that is it for our items for tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
Doctor, do you need anything else from us as a board, Mike, before we?
Just your signature on the minutes, and I think that's it. And then Rich and I can push the button on this tomorrow.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you all so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, I am out.